Hi, peace be unto you. This is Malik. I hope you all are well and most importantly happy during this hard time. We all need to support each other, and my prayers are with you and your family. All of this will end very soon. I pray, inshallah. If you are going through any hardship, have patience. Even I'm going through with hard times. My working system is not working anymore, and this impacting me financially. But thanks to my parents, they always support me and my cute little sister who allowed me to use her PC for this environment course. Although this course is free, but you can still support me by sharing this video and by subscribing. And you can also pay me some cash through PayPal, and my ID is paypal.me/dmenvironments. This is just for those who really want to support my work. Otherwise, you can still download this Unreal Engine project for free from the link I have given in the comment section and in the description. All the tips and work you are going to witness are from my own experience. I am a self-taught artist. Your approach on this software may differ, so grab a cup of coffee and let's begin. Before we start building the environment, we should keep these points in mind. It's necessary to collect as many reference images as possible. This will help us to break down the scene and the assets we may need. We are building an environment, not just a level. These are the software I will use or you will need or similar. Autodesk Maya for modeling, Autodesk Mudbox for sculpting, Substance Painter and Substance Designer for texturing. And last but not least, a game engine, whether it's Unreal Engine or Unity, it doesn't matter. This system has no graphic card in it and the system specifications are also very low. It's a good news for all the people who have low end PC. I got your back, bros. If I can do it, you can do it too. Here are my system specifications. So let's break down the concept art. This concept art I found on ArtStation. It's by Alvin and I really like the composition and it's a very simple environment too. Easy to start. Always find or sketch the simple environment in the beginning. Don't go for difficult thing and have mercy on your soul. Here I break down the environment. Like we need references for these big stones, small bushes, big bushes, rocks, ground and trees. This process helped me to make a list of all the assets I needed. After I collected all the references, I organized the folder because it would become messy as we progress. Let's start modeling. For modeling, I'm using Autodesk Maya, and one more thing, I'm not going in depth of all the software in this course. There are lots of good tutorials made by other creators. You can learn the basics of it and start making something as soon as possible. First, let me introduce you to white box or blockout. These are the previews. This help us to know the scale of the environment, mostly come in handy when we designing a level. It's just a bunch of 3D shapes like cubes, sphere, etc. putting together to visualize the environment or level in 3D space very early. I'm modeling this stone arc, just giving the general shape of the arc, and also I'm keep looking at the reference images. It's not that too complicated, just using the extrude and connect tools. After getting the main shape, I'm cleaning and adding some edges so that I can merge other two geometries into one. Also, it will keep the whole geometry clean. Now I'm previewing it in smooth preview to check the subdivided mesh if it's holding an original shape or not. Otherwise we can fix it by adding edge loops at the corner. After this, I'm directly sending it in the mud box for sculpting. It's easier to do this from here instead of exporting and importing the files in Mudbox. Once I transferred it into a Mudbox directly from Maya, I am applying the Mudbox materials so that I can see the shape and details better. Now I'm subdividing it by holding Shift and tapping the D key according to the levels we need. I prefer we should start sculpting from low level and then we go for higher level for small details. Right now it's too blocky, so I'm deforming it with the grab tool. Once I'm happy with the shape, then I go for sculpting it with the sculpt tool, just pushing things inside and outside. Almost done now. I'm using smooth tool for these jagged details caused by the stamp based brush. Once it's done, I'll export the high poly model and then I lower the levels to the first level by tapping the down key in the keyboard. I have imported the low poly model back in Maya for unwrapping, and we can also downgrade it a little bit more if needed by deleting some unnecessary edges but keeping the most visible shape intact. Let's unwrap this. Don't want to make it too complicated. So for that, I selected this part and give it a cylindrical shape. I'll do the same for other side as well. I'm cutting some faces with the cut UV tool and taking them back to their original place. Then I sew them back with the sew tool. Now I'm unfolding or relaxing it properly with unfold tool. For this middle part, I use the automatic mapping tool. Then I'll do the same process for this one too, and I also make sure that my UVs are facing upward, because once we add the tileable texture to it, it will follow the same flow for each part. In Substance Designer, I'm making my own tileable texture. Here I'm using physical beige shader. For this kind of surface texture, I use the black and white spots one texture. After that, I added the level node and increase the black value just to get the spot that we have on the rock. For the surface beneath the spot, I use the cloud one texture and then blended it together. After this, I am converting it to the normal and extracting other maps too. For the color map, I added the level node separately and then I plugged it into gradient map to get the variety in the colors. I simply extracted the colors from the reference and optimized a bit for my liking. Let's export the texture out and import them into Substance Painter's texture library. So I have imported the low poly stone arc and now baking the textures for it. I'm not going in depth of it, so I'm speeding up the video. I'm pretty happy with the textures. Now I'm exporting it via Unreal Engine preset. It will pack the roughness, AO and metallic into one, just for the optimized purpose. Then hit export. So this is how it packed into one texture. Let's start modeling the trees and the foliage for our scene. You can use P-Tree for that if you have. I started with a plane using multicut tool to extract the leaf shape. I'm making two shapes for different variations, one is skinnier and one is fatter. I'm extruding the middle part of it just to give it a stem flow that we see in the leaves in real life. After that, I'll subdivide it. Now for the branch, I am using curve pen tool and starting from the middle, making sure I am giving it a branch like shape. And it's easy to do this from the side view. This way curves won't change their location. Looking good for me. Now to give it a thickness, I am using cylindrical shape, resizing it according to the thickness I want. And then I select the top faces and the curve and extrude it. This way it will follow the curve shape. It's important to give it some division. You can give it higher, it won't affect the performance because in the end we are going to bake it on a plain sheet. Just to save some time, I'm copying in multiple times to complete the shape. Otherwise you can add multiple cylinder and repeat the process. Now it's time to cluster the leaves, just rotating and scaling them down. This way we get the shape, we get the depth which will look good when we bake the normal and ambient occlusion. I am doing this twice for the sake of variation, combining it and setting the pivot in the end of the leaf stem. It's time to populate the branch. First I select the branch and make it alive because once we add the leaves it stays and follow the stem shape. It's a matter of rotating and scaling them down. So I have finished populating the branch and stacking them this way so it will cover up the UV space properly. I'm importing a plane which I have already UV'd and setting it behind to these high poly branches, making sure it fully occupy the plane. Here I'm combining the leaves and stems separately because once we bake the material ID map, it will select it by acknowledging their IDs. Exporting them separately, one is high poly and second is low poly. To bake the texture for the branch, I'm using Substance Designer. I could have done this in Maya, but here I'll also texture them. I forgot to record the first minute of the work, so that's why I'm using the brush recorded video. Right click on the unsaved project, then link both the low poly and high poly meshes. Right click and dragging the plane in 3D view in order to see it baking perfectly. Right click on your low poly mesh, in my case it's baking plate, and go to bake model information. Click on the add high definition model to assign our high poly model, and now we can add our bakers. For this we need ambient occlusion, normal map, color map ID, and most importantly opacity mask. It's better to add anti-aliasing for better edges. For the frontal value, I have already tested it out. For me 0.3 works great, and then I rendered it out. So after it all baked out, I assigned them to their correct outputs, and I think it baked nicely. Now we can work on the color map. First I drag the color ID map. For this we need two separate colors, one for branch and one for leaves. In this case this color ID map come in handy. I started with the two gradient maps and I assigned wood fiber for the stem and same for the leaves, but with different color. In order to extract the color ID, add color to mask node. First double click on it and then single click on the color ID map and then pick the stem color. We can adjust the mask range and softness, see what works. Add the blend node and insert the leaves color in the background and wood color in the foreground. Then we can mask it out with this mask. I will work on the leaves color further and see if I get better. So I'm done. Let's take it back to Maya and extract out these branches. I'm importing my low poly mesh, then we can assign material to it, adding two maps, first color map and second opacity. These two maps are enough to see the shape, extracting them with the multicut tool, also making sure I am close to the textures. This way we can avoid opacity overdraw in Unreal Engine. After selecting the face, I'll separate them from one another and start working on them separately. Also, I connected all the edges and cleaned up the mesh with more vertices. I bended them instead of keeping it just a plain shape. Its time is the same as I did earlier with the leaves cluster, just rotating and scaling them. Once I finished giving them the variation, I'll be back. So I made four branches with different variation. and it's time to model the tree structure. After that, we'll populate it with these branches. The same way I model the branches, I'm applying this technique for making the tree, but this time I'm using proper curve tool to get the smooth shape instead of jagged shape. I'm good with the shape. Now I'm dragging the points in 3D space to give it some dimension because we are not baking it like we bake the branch. Once this curve part done, I'll use the cylinder to get the 3D shape. Done with the shape, I'm optimizing it. We can have the good amount of polygons in the bottom. Once we go higher, that part wouldn't be visible. It's not necessary to have the same amount of polygon on top. For that, I'm merging the vertices together. Once all it's done, I will design the bark texture in Substance Designer. I'll use the same techniques I have been using throughout this process. So for saving some time, I'm speeding up the video. The texture for the trunk is done. Let's unwrap the tree. It's not that difficult. First apply the texture, then we make sure that the texture are facing upward, because once we tile it, it will look even and better. For that I am isolating this one branch. Go to UV editor, select the mesh and utilize it. This way the texture applied on each of the faces individually. After this, I went to edge mode, then selected all the edges and deselected end of the branch and the middle edge flow. So basically we are making a seam, or we are marking a seam, then we move and sew UV edges. And it unwrapped perfectly. In my case, I merged the top vertices together when I was optimizing it. That's why it stretched out. The good way to fix it, just simply unfold. Now it's time to rescale the UV to give it a proper tiling. Once I unwrap all these, I'll be back. I have unwrapped it. Let's merge it together, center pivot, and now it's time to populate the tree. First I make the tree live, then attach the branch. It's the same process we did earlier, so I'm speeding up the video. So we are done. It's looking good, but it's lacking proper vertex normal shading. So to fix it, I use the sphere, delete the half of it, delete history, and then center it. Then I combine all the branches together. Let's transfer the dome normal to the branches. First we select the source, then the target. Just hit the transfer attribute. We are done with the tree. We will be using the same technique for making bushes and brushes. I forgot to show you the settings of the transfer attribute. So here are these. I turned off all of them except vortex normal. Thank you. For the ground, I'm using the classic approach. Instead of using the UE4 terrain, we'll take our own ground. In this process, I'll be using Mudbox to sculpt it further. Then I'll get this back into Maya and optimize it with the same technique I did on Arc. For this ground texture, I'll be designing two files. First one will be the grass texture and second one will be the mud texture. So enjoy the speed workflow and I'll see you when I start working in Unreal Engine. Before I take this in Unreal Engine, I make sure that all my assets have the right proportion or right scaling. If not, just import the mannequin from UE4 and start rescaling the objects. I imported all my models here. Each files are in their separate folders. This way it won't become messy. And I made the simple shader for all my assets. I'll show you in a minute. But let's take a look at my model. If I just click on the tree model, you can see that I assigned the LOD system to it. I use the auto LOD system and check the auto compute LOD distance, and if I select my LOD, you can see we can write our own screen size. What screen size will do? It allows me to write down my own value according to the current screen size I have on my screen. It's on left upper corner. It defines at what distance I want my LOD loaded automatically. I also reduce the textures and shading for each LOD. Nothing complicated, I did it with all the assets. Let's take a look on the shaders. As I said earlier, I did not do anything new or complicated with materials. If I click on the arc material, you can see it's just a simple material. To brighten the texture, I apply the constant 2 vector and multiplying it with the original texture. And for the specular, I simply plugged the constant 1 value and typed 0.2 value. For the roughness, instead of brightness, I wrote the name roughness. This helped me to control the roughness value according to my name. And if you remember, we packed our AO roughness and metallic into one texture. That's why I'm extracting all of them from their channels. For the bush material, I used the same color node, but I also added the speed tree color variation function. This will give the variation in colors to my foliage and break the repetition pattern. In order to get the opacity working, we need to change shader attribute. Like I switched my blend mode to mask and my shading mode to two-sided foliage. This unlocks the subsurface color also. We can assign the color map to it. It will work just fine. And to get the movement in my foliage, I use the simple grass wind. Added the constant 2 value to each in order to change their properties. If I open up my ground material, what I did here is just using the vertex color with hide log node. I wanted to keep it clean, so for that I made my material function for the grass and mud separately. Brought them in here like this, then I type break material attribute to get all my assigned map in the material editor. Why I'm using height love, if you ask, it will allow me to blend the texture together realistically based on the height. I assign the mud height map. Let me show you the example. If I go to vertex paint and select the red channel and holding shift then tab, see how precisely these two textures are blending. So let's start working on the level. First I'm placing my mannequin, also placing my reference image too, just to get the idea for the level, how and where things needs to be. It's easy to get the reference image here instead of switching the windows. I'm making sure that I am covering up the edges of the map with these bushes. I also model these low poly bush for background to cover up most of the area. I'm gonna dab my brush to get the mud texture that is also blending nicely instead of harsh blending. You can see how nicely it blended just by dabbing. I'm gonna be baking the light for this environment, so that's why I'm checking my light map resolution. If they are green, they are good. If not, then we have to increase the resolution for it. Once I placed all the objects, I'll be back. I'm pretty much done with this environment. I also repositioned the sun. I didn't change anything in the atmospheric fog. In the light source, I changed the intensity to 0.5. I also checked the use temperature to get the cool or bluish color as we get at night, and kept it to the stationary. I increased the indirect light to 6. In the skysphere, I unchecked the color determined by SEM to customize the color. In my skylight setting, just using the SLS specified cube and keeping the intensity to 1. And you can check out my other settings. So I know you will ask me in the comment section why I didn't show you when I was working on these things, because your scene may need the different settings, so it will be time consuming to show you the whole process. It's just a trial and error. See what's best for you. To get the night time, for that I need to enable my post process. Here are all my post process settings. I also added the spotlight to get the crisp highlight on my objects artificially. It's just a hack. See how much it creates a difference. Now our scene is not looking that flat anymore. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and learned something new. Once again, I wish you happy and healthy life. Share this video and subscribe to my channel, and you can download this Unreal Engine project from the link I have given in the description and in the comment section. Also, you can support me by paying any amount you want. Here is my PayPal account, paypal.me/dmenvironments. One more thing, I want you to make some good environment and message me on my page. It's DM Environments, and I'll share your work. And I want you to use these assets too and make a level out of this. I'm willing to see your work. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, stay home, stay safe.